The intercepted message. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Pioneer, watching the endless expanse of stars through the reinforced viewport. 3 months into their deep space exploration mission, her crew had mapped 17 new star systems and cataloged dozens of potentially habitable worlds. It was routine work, but Sarah found peace in the vastness of space and the promise of discovery that lay beyond each jump point. The Pioneer was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, equipped with the latest scanning technology and a crew of the finest scientists and engineers Earth could offer. Sarah had earned her position through 15 years of distinguished service, rising through the ranks with a combination of tactical brilliance and genuine care for her people. At 38, she was young for a deep space commander, but her silver hair and calm demeanor spoke of someone who had seen enough of the universe to respect both its beauty and its dangers. "Commander," called Lieutenant Torres from the communications station, "we're picking up something unusual on long-range sensors. It's artificial, definitely not natural phenomena." Sarah moved to the sensor station, her boots clicking against the polished deck plates. The Pioneer's bridge was a marvel of human engineering, with holographic displays and neural interface systems that allowed the crew to process vast amounts of data in real time. But right now, all of Sarah's attention was focused on the strange signal appearing on their screens. "Analysis?" she asked, leaning over the shoulder of her sensor operator, Ensign Park. "It's old, Commander, really old. The energy signature suggests it's been broadcasting for at least 10,000 years, maybe more. The signal is weak but consistent, like some kind of automated beacon." Sarah frowned. Humanity had been exploring space for over 2 centuries, but they had yet to encounter any signs of intelligent alien life. The discovery of an artificial signal this far from Earth would change everything. "Can we triangulate the source?" "Already working on it," Park replied, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "It's coming from a system about 6 light-years from our current position. The beacon appears to be in orbit around a dead star." "Plot a course," Sarah ordered. "Full speed." The journey to the beacon took 18 hours, during which time the Pioneer's linguists and xenobiologists worked frantically to analyze the signal. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief scientist, had assembled a team of experts to decode what might be humanity's first message from an alien civilization. When they finally reached the source, Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. The beacon was massive, easily the size of a small moon, constructed from materials that their scanners couldn't identify. It was covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched, and it pulsed with an eerie blue light that made the hair on Sarah's arms stand on end. "Dr. Vasquez," Sarah called over the comm system. "Report to the bridge immediately." The scientist arrived within minutes, her dark hair disheveled from hours of intense work. She carried a tablet displaying complex linguistic algorithms and translation matrices. "Commander, this is incredible. We've managed to decode significant portions of the message. It's a warning, but not directed at us. It's meant for other alien species." "What kind of warning?" Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Dr. Vasquez activated the main display, showing the translated text in stark white letters against the black of space. It says, "To all who hear this transmission, heed this warning above all others. Do not engage the humans in warfare. Do not attack their colonies. Do not threaten their ships. They are not like us. They do not surrender. They do not forgive. They do not forget. Once you have shed human blood, you will never escape their wrath." This message is sent in the final days of our civilization, as their fleets burn our worlds. We are the Kethmoran Empire. We were mighty among the stars. We thought ourselves superior. We were wrong. Do not make our mistake. The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's systems. Sarah stared at the message, trying to process its implications. According to the beacon, humanity had once been involved in a war so devastating that it had prompted an ancient alien civilization to warn others across the galaxy. but there was no record of such a conflict in human history. "Could this be from the future?" asked Lieutenant Torres, voicing what everyone was thinking. "Impossible," Dr. Vasquez replied. "The quantum dating indicates this beacon has been broadcasting for millennia. But there's something else. The message contains detailed descriptions of human technology and tactics that we've never developed. It's as if they're describing a version of humanity that's far more advanced than we are." Before Sarah could respond, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. The tactical display showed multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace around them. 12 large vessels, clearly of alien design, their hulls gleaming with an oily black finish that seemed to absorb light. "Red alert," Sarah commanded. "All hands to battle stations. Communications, try to establish contact." The response came quickly, broadcast on standard frequencies in accented but understandable English. "Human vessel, this is Battle Commander Zexhai of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender immediately and submit to boarding. Your species has been marked for subjugation." Sarah's blood ran cold. The Zephyrians were making the exact mistake the ancient beacon had warned against. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Zephyrian vessel, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Pioneer. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. There is no need for conflict." The alien's response was filled with contempt. "Your words are meaningless, human. Your species is primitive and weak. You will serve the Empire or be destroyed. Choose quickly." Sarah looked at the beacon on her screen, then at her crew. They were outnumbered 12-1, with no chance of escape, but she had a duty to her people and to Earth. "All hands, prepare for combat. Transmit our current position and situation to Earth Command on all frequencies." The battle was brief but fierce. The Pioneers' shields held for nearly 10 minutes against the Zephyrian assault, long enough to transmit a full report of their discovery. Sarah watched her crew work with calm professionalism, even as the ship shook under enemy fire. When the end came, she was standing at her post, her hand on the ship's self-destruct mechanism. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the UES Pioneer." She broadcast on all frequencies. "To any human forces receiving this message, we have made first contact with a hostile alien empire called the Zephyrians. They have attacked without provocation and shown no interest in peaceful resolution. They intend to subjugate our species. We have discovered evidence that humanity has faced such threats before and emerged victorious. Do not let our sacrifice be in vain." The beacon's warning is clear. They should not have attacked us. The transmission ended as the Pioneer's reactor core overloaded, taking the ship and its crew into the void. But the message had been sent, and it would reach Earth within hours. Back on Earth, the news of the Pioneer's destruction and Sarah Chen's final message sent shockwaves through the United Earth government. Within days, reports began arriving of Zephyrian attacks on human colonies. The assault on New Terra was the worst, with orbital bombardment that killed over 3 million civilians in a matter of hours. The Zephyrian Empire had made a critical error. They had judged humanity by their own standards, assuming that the loss of a single exploration vessel and a few colony worlds would force the humans to surrender. They had no understanding of human psychology, no appreciation for the bonds that held human society together. President Maria Santos addressed the emergency session of the Global Council with tears in her eyes and steel in her voice. "Fellow citizens of Earth and all human colonies, we have been attacked by an alien empire that seeks to enslave us. They have murdered millions of our people without warning or mercy. They believe we are weak because we value peace. They are about to learn the difference between being peaceful and being harmless." The mobilization that followed was unlike anything in human history. Every shipyard in human space began working around the clock to produce warships. Research facilities that had been developing peaceful technologies were converted to military applications. The human population, united by grief and rage, supported the war effort with unprecedented determination. Within 6 months, the largest battle fleet in human history was assembled under the command of Admiral Marcus Kane, a veteran of the colonial wars who had earned a reputation for tactical brilliance and absolute ruthlessness when defending human interests. The fleet consisted of over 500 ships, from massive dreadnoughts to nimble destroyers, all equipped with the latest weapons technology. As the fleet prepared to depart for Zephyrian space, intercepted alien communications began to paint a disturbing picture. Other alien civilizations, having learned of the conflict, were broadcasting their own warnings. The message was always the same: do not engage the humans. Do not attack their colonies. They are not like us. The ancient beacon's warning was spreading across the galaxy, and for the first time in their history, the Zephyrians began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late. The human fleet was already en route, and Admiral Kane had made it clear that there would be no negotiation until every human death had been avenged. Sarah Chen's sacrifice had not been in vain. Her discovery of the beacon and her final message had given humanity both warning and purpose. The Zephyrians would soon learn why ancient civilizations had tried to warn them about attacking the humans. They would learn that some species, when pushed to their limits, become something far more dangerous than their enemies could ever imagine. The human response. Admiral Marcus Kane stood in the war room aboard the UES Vengeance, studying the three-dimensional holographic display that showed the disposition of human forces across known space. At 55, Kane was a legend in the United Earth Navy, a man who had never lost a battle, but had also never sought unnecessary conflict. His weathered face bore the scars of a lifetime spent in service to humanity, and his gray eyes held the weight of difficult decisions that came with command. The Vengeance was the flagship of the human fleet, a massive dreadnought that stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its weapons systems could level entire cities, and its armor was thick enough to withstand direct hits from nuclear weapons. But Kane knew that the real strength of his fleet lay not in its technology, but in the resolve of the men and women who crewed its ships. "Admiral," called Captain Rodriguez from the communication station, "we're receiving updated intelligence from our reconnaissance drones in Zephyrian space." Kane moved to the central display, where the latest intelligence reports were being processed by the ship's artificial intelligence systems. The Zephyrians had 17 core worlds and over 200 colony systems spread across a region of space roughly equivalent to human territory. Their military was organized along traditional lines, with a focus on overwhelming firepower and intimidation tactics. "What's their current disposition?" Kane asked. "They've pulled back their frontier fleets to defend their core systems," reported Commander Liu, the fleet's intelligence officer. "It appears they're expecting us to follow standard military doctrine and strike at their outlying territories first." Kane nodded grimly. The Zephyrians were thinking like most military commanders throughout history, assuming that their enemies would follow predictable patterns of warfare. They expected a gradual campaign, system by system, with opportunities for negotiation and strategic withdrawal. They had no understanding of what they were truly facing. "Sir," interrupted Ensign Patel at the sensor station, "we're detecting additional alien transmissions on multiple frequencies." "It's not from the Zephyrians." "Put it through," Kane ordered. The main speakers crackled to life with a series of alien voices, all speaking different languages, but all conveying the same message of fear and warning. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the fleet's xenolinguist, had been working around the clock to translate the intercepted communications. "Admiral, we've identified transmissions from at least 8 different alien civilizations," Dr. Walsh reported, her voice showing the strain of weeks without proper rest. "The Thraxian Confederacy, the Melody Collective, the Vorthan Republic, and others. They're all broadcasting the same warning that we found in the ancient beacon. Word of our conflict with the Zephyrians has spread across the galaxy." Kane listened to the translations with growing interest. The messages were remarkably consistent: warnings to avoid conflict with humans at all costs, descriptions of human warfare as unlike anything seen before, and references to ancient civilizations that had learned this lesson too late. "Dr. Walsh, are these civilizations offering assistance to either side?" No, sir. If anything, they seem to be withdrawing from both human and Zephyrian space. Several species have issued formal declarations of neutrality, and we're detecting refugee movements along their borders. They're evacuating entire star systems that might be in the path of our fleet. The implications were staggering. The mere prospect of human Zephyrian warfare was causing a galactic panic among species that had never even encountered humanity directly. Kane wondered what kind of reputation humans had earned in the ancient past to inspire such fear. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Stevens from the tactical station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Kane accepted the transmission, and the holographic image of President Santos appeared before him. Her face showed the strain of the past months, but her voice remained strong and determined. "Admiral Kane, I'm authorizing Operation Retribution. You have full discretionary authority to conduct this campaign as you see fit. The only restriction is that civilian populations are to be protected whenever possible. Beyond that, you are to demonstrate to the Zephyrians and any other hostile species that attacking humanity carries consequences they cannot imagine." "Understood, Madam President. What's the latest from our intelligence networks?" "The Zephyrians are regrouping their forces around their core worlds, but they're also sending diplomatic feelers through neutral species. They want to negotiate, but they're demanding that we accept their sovereignty over the territory they've already conquered, including our lost colonies." Kane's expression hardened. "And our response?" "No negotiation until every human colony is liberated and every civilian death is accounted for. They started this war by murdering our people. They will not dictate the terms of its end." After the transmission ended, Kane turned to address his senior staff. The war room was filled with the best tactical minds in human space, officers who had studied every aspect of Zephyrian military doctrine and technology. But Kane knew that the real advantage lay in something that couldn't be quantified on tactical displays. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to embark on a campaign unlike any in human history. We're not just fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting to establish humanity's place in a galaxy full of species that view us as primitives to be conquered or enslaved. The Zephyrians made the mistake of judging us by their own standards. They're about to learn that humans are different." Captain Rodriguez raised her hand. "Sir, what about the other alien species? Should we be concerned about intervention?" "The intelligence suggests they're more afraid of us than they are supportive of the Zephyrians," Kane replied. "The ancient warnings have convinced them that human warfare is something to be avoided at all costs. As long as we don't threaten them directly, they'll likely remain neutral." The fleet's chief engineer, Commander Thompson, spoke up next. "Admiral, our ships are performing beyond specifications. The new reactor designs are giving us significant advantages in speed and firepower. But the Zephyrians have numerical superiority in most engagements." Kane smiled grimly. "Numbers mean nothing if you can't use them effectively. The Zephyrians fight like most military organizations throughout history. They follow doctrine, maintain formations, and retreat when faced with significant losses. Humans fight differently. We adapt, we improvise, and we don't stop until the enemy is completely defeated." The fleet's jump to Zephyrian space took 3 days, during which time Kane refined the battle plans with his staff. Unlike traditional military campaigns, Operation Retribution would not begin with attacks on frontier worlds or strategic resources. Instead, the human fleet would strike directly at the heart of Zephyrian power, demonstrating that no target was beyond their reach. When they emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian home system, Kane felt a surge of satisfaction at the chaos that erupted across enemy communications channels. The Zephyrians had expected a long campaign that would allow them time to prepare their defenses and seek allies. Instead, they found a massive human fleet on their doorstep, ready for immediate battle. "Sir, we're detecting the Zephyrian home fleet," reported Commander Liu. 47 capital ships, over 200 smaller vessels. They're moving to intercept us at the system's edge. "They want to keep us away from their population centers," Kane observed. "Standard defensive doctrine." How long until they reach firing range? 3 hours at current speeds, sir. Kane turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. Let's see if they want to reconsider their position. The response came from Battle Commander Thexmore, whose image appeared on the main screen. The Zephyrian was a tall reptilian creature with scales that shifted from green to gold as he spoke. His eyes held the arrogance of a species that had never known defeat. Human Admiral, you have made a grave error coming here. This is Zephyrian space, and you will withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Kane's response was calm and measured. Battle Commander, your forces attacked our colonies without provocation and murdered millions of our civilians. We are here to ensure that such attacks never happen again. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy. Continue to resist, and you will learn why ancient civilizations warned against attacking humans. The Zephyrian scales shifted to deep red, a sign of rage among his species. You speak of ancient warnings, primitive superstitions. Your technology is inferior, your numbers are smaller, and your species is soft. We will crush you as we have crushed others. Then you have chosen your fate, Kane replied, and closed the channel. The battle that followed would be studied by military academicians for generations. The Zephyrians attacked in traditional formation, expecting the humans to respond with conventional tactics. Instead, Kane split his fleet into smaller groups that struck from multiple directions simultaneously. Human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the heaviest Zephyrian weapons while concentrating fire on critical systems. But the real difference was in the crews themselves. When Zephyrian ships were damaged, they withdrew to regroup and repair. When human ships were damaged, they pressed their attacks with even greater ferocity. Human captains who had lost friends at New Terra and other colonies fought with personal vengeance that translated into tactical brilliance. The turning point came when the Zephyrian flagship, the Dominator, found itself surrounded by 5 human cruisers. Battle Commander Thexmore attempted to surrender, following standard military protocol that expected his enemies to accept the gesture and preserve his crew. Instead, Kane's response was broadcast across all frequencies. You murdered our children without mercy. You showed no honor when you attacked defenseless colonies. You will receive the same consideration you gave our people. The human ships opened fire simultaneously, and the Dominator was destroyed with all hands. The message was clear. This was not a conventional war between military forces. This was humanity's response to an attempt at genocide, and there would be no mercy for those who had shed innocent blood. Within 6 hours, the Zephyrian home fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single ship escaped to carry word of the battle. The human fleet then turned toward the inner system, where 10 billion Zephyrians waited on their homeworld. As they approached the planet, Kane received a transmission from the Zephyrian High Command. The voice was desperate, pleading, completely different from the arrogant tone of their previous communications. Human Admiral, we surrender. We acknowledge our error. Please, our civilians are innocent. They had no part in the attacks on your colonies. Kane considered the plea for a long moment before responding. Your civilians will be spared, but your military and government will face justice for their crimes. This is not a negotiation. This is the consequence of attacking humanity. The occupation of the Zephyrian homeworld proceeded without major resistance. Kane's ground forces, led by battle-hardened Marines who had lost friends and family in the alien attacks, secured key installations and began the process of dismantling the Zephyrian military apparatus. But the real impact of the battle was already spreading across the galaxy. Other alien civilizations that had been monitoring the conflict were broadcasting new warnings, more desperate than any before. The ancient beacon's message was proving prophetic. Humans were indeed different from other species, and attacking them brought consequences that few could imagine. As Kane stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching Zephyrian vessels surrender across the system, he reflected on the words of Commander Sarah Chen's final transmission. The Zephyrians had learned too late that humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous when pushed to their limits, a species that would cross the galaxy to ensure that every injustice was answered, every death was avenged, and every enemy understood the price of threatening human lives.